What in the bomba just occurred? I'm quite stunned, if I'm being honest, with what just happened. David Ornstein exclusive. Morgan Rogers to Chelsea for £117 million. And yeah, he said a few other things, but they completely contradict what everyone else said and what he said earlier in the market about Morgan Rogers wanting Arsenal. So I'm not going to pretend like Morgan Rogers didn't and he chose Chelsea over us. It was clearly, or what seemed to me as clearly, him choosing the team that bid the most for him, as in he chose the team that agreed with Villa. He probably was cool with going with either club. He talked to Xabi Alonso and was convinced that, going to that project wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. And he's gone and he's accepted, and that deal is basically done. How I feel as an Arsenal fan, my goodness. So many, so many feelings at once. Firstly, I was surprised because this kind of came out of nowhere. We knew that Chelsea were always interested in Rodgers, but it always felt like, kind of like Jeremy Monga, it always felt like Arsenal just needed to slap down a bid and they could get the deal done whenever they wanted. Um, it always felt like it was inevitable, just like Jeremy Monga. But just like Jeremy Monga, an oil club comes in and slaps more money than we can, or than we value the player at, and boom, they kind of essentially hijack the deal. The player is okay with going with both clubs because they're both big clubs, and they hijack the deal because they pay more money, and we're not willing to match that. It's understandable from one perspective, and from one perspective I understand not wanting to pay 117 million. 117 million pounds is ridiculous money for Morgan Rogers. I've said it multiple times. I actually had a video coming out literally today about it. Morgan Rogers has X factor. Morgan Rogers improves our attack or our midfield, wherever you want him to play, the 10 or the left wing. He improves us, but for 117 million pounds, there's no way he is worth that. So from that perspective, I understand why Arsenal backed away. But my problem with the deal, or what I think a lot of Arsenal fans have as their problem, is not that you backed away, is that why did this deal take so long? Why did the deal take so long to the point where you were able to get hijacked? If you started direct negotiations earlier in the transfer window, then maybe that deal would have been easier to get done. But instead, we waited and waited and waited. We've had personal terms agreed with Morgan Rogers for weeks. Same with Jeremy Monga, for weeks. Jeremy Monga might have been more than weeks, but Morgan Rogers, it's been weeks. Buwadi, we've been looking at him and talking to him for months. Since January 2025, I think it was. So why are we taking so long? Since Andrea BERTA, why are we taking so long to finalize a deal? I understand not wanting to pay 117 million pounds. Trust me, I do. And I'm on the side. I think there's two sides to Arsenal fans right now. There's one side that's, or maybe there's three sets, right? There's one that's on the side that, why didn't we just pay the money? If it's our top target, why didn't we pay the money? And I think there's the other side that says, no way, this is too much. But I think where I am is a fine middle ground of, yes, it's definitely overpriced, but why did you let it get to this situation? Because the whole point of this being done so quickly, the whole point of this being a surprise, was because we waited, and then Chelsea wanted to get it done quickly to anticipate our bid. Essentially, what that makes me feel like is they were afraid that the player would choose us over them, or they were afraid that we would bid more, so they wanted to wrap it up quickly. That's fine. My issue is that, why do all this indirect talking with multiple targets, agreeing with multiple targets, convincing multiple targets that they will join us, just for us in the end to lose out on these targets? Morgan Rogers could have been done much earlier in the window. I get it, it's a massive outlay, but Villa needed the money. You could have negotiated well before the Tielemans deal, well before any other deals were done. Same with Bruno Guimaraes, same with Buwadi, same with all these other deals. You could have done this earlier in the window, or tried to do it earlier in the window, and move for your player that is your top target. I understand if this is, your second or third choice target, so you don't want to commit because you have a player you like more and you're kind of waiting it out. Even then, I would think, I'm not sure about how I feel about that, but I would accept it more. But this time, to let your top target, Arteta's top target, Morgan Rogers, to miss out on him just because you're twiddling your thumbs and another club decides, we'll just pay the fee. It's upsetting. I think for me, it's not a concern about losing the player, and especially for that value, I'm not that concerned. I understand why we didn't pay 117 million pounds, like I said, and I understand that this player still has flaws. So not getting him is not the end of the like. It's not the end of the world for me. But I really like the player, one, and secondly, he was supposedly our top target for the position. So how can you lose out on him and wait that long to make a bid for him? They said 130 million pounds. If you did this before the Tielemans deal, if you did this before the Digne deal, maybe we could have got it down to 100, maybe 105. Is that still an overpay? I'd probably say so. He feels like an 85, 90 million pound signing, maybe 80 to 90 million pound signing. But I always accepted that if we got 100, 105 out of it, it is what it is. The market is inflated, and so I can understand that. 117 is unacceptable, but it's the slowness, it's the delay of getting top targets. And for me, this makes me worried about the Bruno Guimaraes deal. Anyone can threaten that deal now because we're not directly talking to the club. We're going and, talking, letting Kia figure it out. And so who knows what can happen with that deal? That deal, Manchester United could go, or City could go and just directly talk to Newcastle and say, "Hey, how much do you guys want? You guys want 80 million? Sure, we'll pay 80 million. Boom, slap it down, deal done." And that's what's upsetting me is not the player, not the fee, because I wouldn't want to pay the fee for that player. And the player isn't a player that is so good like a Vinicius that if he's on the market, you have to get him. Or Declan Rice, for example. Maybe a Saliba now if he was on the market. He's not that level. But for me, how are we supposed to be convinced right now as a fan base that this club is moving appropriately, that we're moving appropriately in terms of getting our top targets over the line? How am I supposed to go into that? How am I supposed to feel about Bruno Guimaraes that yes, this is a confirmed Arsenal player, or this will be an Arsenal player, or we will go as hard as we can for him? It doesn't feel like that right now. It feels like we're taking our time, assessing the options, looking at the market, when we have to get business done. Like, there are some deals that we have to get done. We have to improve our left wing. We have to improve our midfield. We have to get a backup for Saliba, or improve our midfield as in the depth. We have to get a backup for Saliba or a right back, whichever one you want to solve the Saliba conundrum. We have to bolster our attack, and if that's just a left winger, that's fine, but it should be a left winger and another. Like, I don't, and you know what, if we were making lots of sales, I would understand it. If we were focusing on sales and, it wasn't just Trossard over the line, if it was Trossard and Gabriel Jesus was close and this player was close and that player was close and deals were, basically done and that's what it looked like we were focusing on, fair enough. But right now, what are we doing? We're agreeing deals for youngsters. We're missing out on a few, Mbemba and Monga, the ones that people really wanted. We're getting some others that look to be good talents, but who knows what their ceiling is. And we're signing Solis and Melier. Those are our two signings plus a bunch of young signings. Is that what our market for league winners is supposed to be? We've recorded record revenues and we're penny pinching over Jeremy Monga, 2.5 million, and now Morgan Rogers for, I think, what is it, 17 million? I told you, I agree not to pay that fee for the player. I agree that the player is not such a cost, or it's not detrimental to how I feel the club's direction. But my worry is that the players that might be detrimental, the players that we might be able to get that would massively improve us, like a Bruno Guimaraes, we might lose out on those targets because of how we're operating in this window so far. This window so far is a horrible window, one of our worst windows in a while. It feels like this is the worst window we've had since 24-25. And look, the window isn't done yet, and I don't want to be reactionary. There's a lot that could happen. We could still do good business that makes sense for the club. But we need to get faster with these deals. It's July 18th. How much more time are we going to twiddle our thumbs? I think preseason, I saw Man United had a preseason game today. Preseason starts soon. So a lot of these players are already back. The only teams that like you can't start bidding for that have a serious World Cup on the line right now is Argentina versus Spain. Every other player is available now. It doesn't matter. England, they don't care about the third place game today. No one cares about that. We will watch it. I will be there. But is that so decisive that they can't start negotiating and you can't start bidding for these players and talking to their families, talking to their camps? No. So I don't understand. What are we doing? Why are we so slow? And I think that's where the frustration comes from. I don't mind that much about losing the player. I wanted the player. I liked the player. I don't mind losing him that much. What I do mind is why are we moving so slow? I don't want to see an exclusive in 2 days, 3 days saying, Manchester United agree a deal for Bruno Guimaraes. Man City agree a deal for Bruno Guimaraes for 80 million. I don't care. No, go and grab him. Go and get him now because you have to get your top targets. And I understand if you don't get the Morgan Rogers, if you go and steal Bruno Guimaraes. That's my main player that I want to get. Bruno Guimaraes. Get me him and it is what it is. But it's looking like a frustrating window right now when you see a lot of our targets. Tonali was a target of ours, but not a major target. He's been snapped up. Buhari, who's one of our big targets, Manchester City are looking to buy him. 100 million euros, definitely overpriced. It makes sense why we don't want to get him. Fair enough, but we've been talking to him for ages. Now Morgan Rogers, our main left-wing target, gets wrapped up by Chelsea. Now Bruno Guimaraes, who seems to be our other main midfield target, are we just gonna wait for him as well? Who knows? But we need to stop the waiting game. We need to go make some bids. We need to make some signings because this Morgan Rogers deal is very concerning when we look at how slow we're moving this window.